Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Prema-dhvani Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Namaste Saraswate Deve Prema-dhvani Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar
Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda
Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramansa Paripradjacharya Ashtotra Sri Srimad A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, Prem Sakaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai, Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopinath Sham Kund Radha Kunigiri Govardhan Ki Jai, Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Navadip Dham Ki Jai, Jagannath Puri Ki Jai, Gangamai Ki Jai, Jamunamai Ki Jai, Tulsi Devi Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande. Some water for me. The temple microphone system is not on. Do you have to press the button there? Does that do it? Hello, hello. Hare Krishna. Okay, anyway, I'll yell. Or you. Okay, it's that one. Yes, just for that. Om Jnana Timirandhasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurn Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Sthapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Tathati Shapadantikam Vande Hang Shri Guru Shri Jatapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Shagrashatam Sahagana Raganatan Vitam Stam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lolita Sri Vishakhan Vitamscha. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kamshana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Bodhi Priye Vanshakol Patrubhyascha Kripa Sindho Pyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namo Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. You're giving me some water, right? Welcome to our Thursday night Istagosthi, and we're again in echo. We're again at our temple in Baltimore area. Is this Catonsville? In Catonsville, Maryland. And I wonder what kind of topics might be bubbling up, either here or there. Anything goes, any subject matter is, Krishna conscious subject matter is accepted on Thursdays. Okay, a chat box question. Really, the way you tracked it yesterday was good. Krishna says the soul is, let's see who this is, it's Murari Gupta from Mayapur. Krishna says the soul is not the doer. The spirit soul, bewildered by the influence of false ego, thinks himself the doer of activities in actuality carried out by the three modes of nature, material nature. Let's get closer to that. Pardon me. Well, let's see. Yeah.
Well, I didn't load the last one, but I just signed in.
Oh, I see. Okay. Forgive me. We have to get a little closer to this. In the 18th chapter, he says the soul is one of the factors of action, place of action, the body, the performer, the various senses, the many different kinds of endeavor, and ultimately the super soul. These are the 5 factors of action. The word adibhutam, adhisthānam, refers to the body. The soul within the body is acting to bring about the results of activities and is therefore known as karta, the doer. That the soul is the knower and the doer is stated in the Shruti. Esha tu drashta shrashta. It is also confirmed in the Vedanta Sutra, Gyota Eva, and Karta Shastrartavat are the two understandings, these two different understandings of the doer. Doer, no, they're complementary. In one place, in the earlier in the Bhagavad Gita, it said that the soul thinks himself the doer. Ahankara vimudatma kartahamiti manite. He falsely thinks himself the doer. And in the 18th chapter, yeah, thank you. It's my little red book there, by the way. In the 18th chapter, it said that he is the doer, karta. But then the conclusion is in the Bhagavad Gita, and let's find that. Tatraivam satikartaram atmanam kevalam tuyaha pasyatya kritabudhitvan nasapashyati durmatihi. Everything is done by these 5 factors. And therefore, if one thinks that he's the only doer, kevalam, then akrita buddhi, his intelligence is immature, not very good intelligence. So it's not denied that the soul is in one sense the doer, but only as one of 5 factors, and a very tiny factor at that. He doesn't have that much power. He imagines that he can do anything. What is that? I could be bounded in a nutshell and think myself the Lord of infinite space. So we're very tiny. We have a little tiny independence which has some effect on things, but it's not up to us. Adhisthānam, the place, then the senses, the various kinds of endeavor, and especially Daiva Pancham. There's a destiny that shapes our ends. So they're complementary understandings. I don't see that they're in conflict with one another. Anyone else want to comment on that? Okay, good. Some other, okay. Yes, you have a question. Tell me.
Like Brahma
Durvasa Muni.
We hear he has access to go to Vaikuntha Loka also, but he was not a devotee. So that is one observation. And is it possible for yogis also to go to spiritual world?
He got a condition. Durvasa Muni went to Vaikuntha, but he's not a devotee. So it's possible for the yogis to go to the spiritual, to Vaikuntha. He got a temporary visa. That's all. He can't stay there. Something else? Yes.
Prabhupada's lecture, one of the lectures, he says only the people who are very intelligent.
Louder, please. Start again.
Prabhupada in his lecture mentions that only the intelligent class of people will get attracted to Krishna. And who are
only the intelligent may be attracted to Krishna.
Only highly intelligent persons will get attracted to Krishna. And my question that doubt I had was, everybody has intelligence as Prabhupada's class itself as part of the subtle body.
Yeah.
But where does that intelligence comes from? Unless it is part of the spiritual world.
Where does which intelligence come from?
The subtle body's intelligence.
Where does it come from? It comes from material nature. The subtle body is part of material nature, and therefore the material intelligence comes from material nature, just as earth, water, fire, air, and ether come from material nature. Mind, intelligence, and ahankar also come from material nature. They're the subtle elements. There are gross elements, 5 gross elements, and then these are the 3 subtle elements. So this is not the innate intelligence of the soul. This is a covering of the soul. Just there are many materialists who are very intelligent. They can do so many things. But that intelligence is not the same as the intelligence of the soul. It covers the soul. Yes, I'm very intelligent. But that acts, it's a part of Maya. Yes, you're very intelligent. So you keep yourself busy in your research, keep yourself busy in your lab, and don't ask about spiritual life. Just collect your paycheck or do your research and find out about all these interesting things. That's material intelligence. Spiritual intelligence is different. Vedami buddhi yogam tam. Somebody's microphone is turned on. It could be So the spiritual intelligence is there, coming from the spirit soul and directed by Krishna, or augmented by Krishna. And material intelligence is coming from material nature. But if we use our material intelligence, material mind, material body, everything for Krishna, then it becomes spiritualized. Just you use your hands to clean the temple. You use your feet to walk to the temple, you use your eyes to see the deity, use your ears to hear about Krishna. So then those senses, that body becomes spiritualized. So your intelligence also, when you're using it to serve Krishna or to engage in devotional service, becomes spiritualized. But it's part of material nature. All right.
My daughter had a question.
Who has a question?
My daughter.
Your daughter has a question. Okay. Her father will ask it on her behalf, or she'll appear and ask it.
She was asking, how does Krishna exist from eternal time?
How does Krishna,
How can Krishna exist from eternity?
how can Krishna exist from eternity? What's the,
Eternity. How could he exist eternally?
how can he exist eternally? What's the problem?
He's
Just-
asking, I am there, I have a father, I was born.
Yeah, you can't do it, so you're asking, how does he do it? For him, it's not a problem. Just like how does that's called Achintya Shakti, inconceivable potency. Prabhupada explained inconceivable potency. Can you eat with your feet? No, but the tree can eat with its feet. And when the tree can also, after eating with its feet, produce citric acid in little biodegradable capsules, lemons, oranges, and so on. You can't do that. But the tree does it very easily. So you can't understand how the tree does it, but it's very easy business for the tree. But you can't understand how Krishna's existing, but he's existing. But apart from that, first you have to understand yourself. You're also eternally existing. You don't have to go so far as understanding Krishna. This you can understand yourself. That, how old is your daughter?
She's now 8.
8. So once she had like a 2-year-old body, now she has an 8-year-old body. Later she'll have a 16-year-old body, a 40-year-old body. But she'll be the same person. If you read Bhagavad Gita, she can't be cut, she can't be dried, she can't be blown away, she can't be this, can't be that. So she's also Nitya, Shashvata. Also, like Krishna existing, she also has that quality. So first she can study herself and discover that quality in herself. And she'll be able better to answer her own question. Okay.
Saraswati has her hand up.
Saraswati has her hand up.
Praveen said this.
And here's the, oh, I see. There's 2 things. There's a text from Praveen and Saraswati has her hand up. Well, all right, Saraswati, and then Praveen. And there you go, yes.
Pranam, Pujya Maharaj. I have a question and I'm begging your forgiveness in advance if it's a question I ought not to ask. But for my particular circumstances, I feel I need some clarification on something that might actually be a conflict of loyalty. Now we hear that there are 4 bona fide Vaishnava Sampradayas, and I happen to have taken birth in a family that was following the Valbhacharya Sampradaya, which I read somewhere is directly descending from Lord Shiva. So at age 9, my mother had me initiated, which meant that I received a mantra, Shri Krishna Sharanam Mama, and instructed to for Srinathji deity worship, and foremost Sri Yamuna Ma, worshipping her. And but there were a lot of questions that I had that went unanswered, not necessarily, I feel, because they were unable to answer them, but just that English became my first language. And it wasn't until I was able to meet devotees at my first year at university, and then Srila Prabhupada's books opened up an entire universe, so to speak, in terms of knowledge, and filled a lot of blanks, in questions that I had in the past. And I did become twice initiated in ISKCON. My parents in the beginning were not very happy because to them it was construed as becoming kind of a sign of betrayal. They felt like what was lacking in this sampradaya, that you somehow or another left in. This is how they viewed it. I mean, in the end, they became actually very attached to the devotees at ISKCON. They did participate in serving and become active members of ISKCON Vancouver. And my mother, in fact, was very fond of you. So they were very happy that I became initiated. But my question is, I'm kind of between these two sampradayas. I feel like the one that I was born in, I cannot deny that they did set up a foundation upon which I could build once I had association. So I'm in between these two. There are some members of my family, and I can't really deny that they're not strong followers of that particular sampradaya, because I can see that they are. And it's like a kind of a balancing act. And I'm wondering, am I not loyal? Is my loyalty going to be looked at as in question? Or is it okay that I want to honor both?
Yes and yes. You are going to be, how the world looks at people. That's something's always going on. So people are looking and saying, oh, she's this or she's that. We have to expect that the world is going to see in terms of its categories and its own way of thinking. But as you said, first of all, Balabhacharya Sampradaya, Pushti Marg Sampradaya is an accepted Sampradaya. It's coming, as you mentioned, from Rudra, Lord Shiva. So it's accepted. And it's Sri Krishna Sharanam Mama. So our shelter is Krishna, and our goal of life is Krishna. He's there as in Natwar as Srinathji. This Srinathji was originally worshipped by the Gaudiya Vaishnavas. There's a history there, how he eventually came to be worshipped in the Balabhacharya Sampradaya. But he's equally worshipable from all sides. It's not that only the Pushti Margis are worshipping Srinathji. Srinathji means Giridhari, the personality of Godhead, the lifter of Govardhan Hill. So he's worshipped by all the Vaishnavas, and especially the Krishnites, among whom the Gaudiya Vaishnavas are there. So our goal is the same. Our Shastra is the same, Srimad Bhagavatam. The Balabhacharya has written his commentary on Srimad Bhagavatam. So Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, same conclusion. So there's a cooperative, what would you say? A natural cooperative spirit amongst the followers of Balabhacharya and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Even that was carried out into the modern day because Srila Prabhupada came to America through the help of Sumati Murarji, who was coming from the Balabhacharya Sampradaya. So Srila Prabhupada used to go to her place and hear from him about Srimad Bhagavatam. So there's a natural, what would you say, a natural cooperative spirit. Of course, the distinction of the Gaudiya Sampradaya is still there, that we're particularly taking direction from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu on the evidence of Bhagavatam. Krishna Varnam Tusha Krishna Sangopangastra Parshanam Yagyaya Sankirtana Prior Yajantihi Sumedasa. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement has in fact spread all over the world, or you can say that Krishna consciousness or Krishna Bhakti has spread all over the world through the agency of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But there's a natural, what would we say, a natural fit, so that there's not a terrible amount of, so there's not an essential conflict between these two sampradayas. And therefore we look for cooperation and, for cooperation between these sampradayas. And quite often there is quite tangible cooperation. I know in our central New Jersey temple, there's a lot of cooperation between the local Pushti Marg temple and our ISKCON temple. So these things are going on, and we're happy with that. What more? For some devotees, it's very hard because there's a big difference. That when Murari Gupta was canvassed, that please become a devotee of Radha Krishna. Please become a devotee of Radha Krishna. Same thing with the brother of Rupan and what was Anupam, brother of Rup Sanatan. Please become devotee of Radha Krishna. But they couldn't do it because they, as we heard, sold my head to Raghunath, to Lord Ramchandra. So that's, of course, Lord Ramchandra and Krishna are also the same Supreme Personality of Godhead. But he found it difficult to no, I can't. Yes, I agree, I'll do it. Then the next morning, no, I can't do it. I've sold my head to Lord Raghunath, I can't leave. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted, yes, you're Hanuman. You're as good as Hanuman. So that's a harder jump. But here, we're both worshiping Giridhari. There's not a big difference there. Is that okay? Does that help?
Thank you, Maharaj.
Then Praveen is on my text box. From Shivaram Maharaj's book, Sadhavo Hridayam Mayam, paraphrasing, the Lord tells Durvasa, since you've been Lord Shiva, my pure devotee. Okay, let me get this again. If you touch the wrong thing on this phone, you lose it. Okay, let's see if we get back to chat. Okay. Because you've been my pure devotee, Lord Shiva, to come and meet me, you could come to see me in Vaikuntha. Else only my pure devotees can enter Vaikuntha, and not even great Gyanis or yogis, nothing to speak of offenders of my pure devotees. Okay, so there you are. That's how he got his visa. He's, yes, I think partial incarnation of Lord Shiva, Durvasa Muni. Nice Siddhanta from His Holiness Shiva Maharaj. Ujjwal Nitai asks, can you tell me the power of prayers? That's a nice question. Our prayer is, of course, prayer may have, there's different kinds of prayers offered to different people. People pray to Lord Shiva, please give me this, please give me that. And because he's quickly pleased, yes, you take this, you take that. But our prayers are for Krishna. And our real prayer is, please engage me in your service. Even if we pray for something else from Krishna, he may give us that. But there's nothing better to pray for than pure devotional service. And if we pray for that, that's the most powerful prayer, and you get the greatest benefit. I don't know if that answers your question, Ujjwal Nitai. Does it?
Thank you.
Okay. Now I saw another hand. Did I someplace?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, my question is, why does Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita say that once anyone attends my board, he never comes back?
Why Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, one who attains my abode never comes back.
Because we never fact, and even our acharyas have said.
Lord, slower and louder.
Prabhupada has said that there is a chance.
That's not louder.
Prabhupada has said that there is a chance of coming back.
Prabhupada says there's a chance of coming back.
And he gives the example of a drawn ship. So if
He
someone
gives the example of
drawn ship.
a drowning ship.
Mhm. So if someone is in a drowning ship and somebody else is there to help him, then the question that he might have, why my ship is drowning, God will come back. So those questions are not important. So the important action is to get.
The important thing is to get out and not worry about, wait a second, why should I be rescued? What happens if I come back?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that still means that there is a chance that he might come back.
It still means
That there is a chance that he might come back.
there's a chance that he might come back because there's always independence.
Mhm. So that contradicts the statement that Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita.
It contradicts the statement that Krishna makes in the Bhagavad Gita. Yes,
So is it the Bhagavad Gita? So whatever Krishna says,
it's true, but Srila Prabhupada says still there's always a fall down capability,
So,
but it's not used.
but it's what?
There's a fall down capability because the living entity is still independent and still tiny, but he doesn't use that capability, and therefore he doesn't come back. Prabhupada gives the example that I'm a sannyasi, I can have sex, but I don't. But I have the capability. But that doesn't mean that because I have the capability, I'll use the capability. A sannyasi can have sex, but he doesn't, even though the capability is there. So the living entity in the spiritual world has a fall down potency, but he doesn't use it.
So if he so wishes, he might also come
I'm sorry, but holding that microphone at your feet and speaking
back.
the way you're speaking does nothing for me.
Sorry, Maharaji. So the question is, so the one who has attended the spiritual world, so if he wishes, he can come back.
It would help me so much if you would speak slowly and clearly and loudly, because otherwise, every time you ask a question, I have to ask you to repeat it. So better just from the start.
So once one attends the spiritual world,
If you were drowning, you wouldn't speak like that. Help! Speak loud.
so once one attends.
There you go,
the
with
spiritual
boldness and loudness.
Sorry, Maharaji. Once one attends the spiritual world, if he
Yes.
wishes, he can come back.
Once one attains the spiritual world, he can come back, yes, if he wants to, but he doesn't want to.
Thank you for clarification.
Okay, does that help? All right. Okay, there's a Murari Gupta question. Have you ever read that the soul takes the position of Lord Brahma when it enters the material world for the first time? I've heard that, and I think I've even read it, yes. But do I understand it? No. Because, of course, then the next question is that Brahma is usually liberated. So then how is it that from Brahma we'd come down? Right? Is that where we're going with this? Where are you? I think so. It seems that Brahma also, it's not invariable. He can go back to Godhead or he can descend. Comment from Tulsi Priya.
Hi, Krishna Maharaj, please accept my obeisances. The mention of the jivas coming back to the material world reminded me of something I heard the late great His Grace Gopi Pranadana Prabhu said. He said, if you jump off the Empire State Building and you manage to survive, you're not likely to try it again.
Yes. You jump off the Empire State Building and somehow survive, you're not likely to try it again. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yes.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
First, 10th chapter in Bhagavad Gita.
10th chapter.
Yes, in that Krishna says the Chatushloki thing, Machitta Madhya Prana, Bodhyanti plus. My question is there that Krishna said the pure devotees remember 24/7 all the time. Their mind is always smaranam, remembering Krishna all the time. I was trying this philosophy really hard or something, but I think I don't know why. Like I'll go to work and I say, I'm not going to talk to anybody, I'm just going to remember chanting. And
You go to work and you, first of all, much chitta madhya prana, the devotees were always chanting my glories. So you decided that you're just going to focus on that. But then when you go to work, I'm not going to talk to anybody, I'm just going to focus on chanting. But then you don't do it.
And then you forget the time, like morning time, you chant, do everything. And then those 68 hours, you try to do the best, but you get carried away.
So it's meant to be practical. It's not that because much chitta madhya prana, therefore I can't do anything in this world other than speak of Krishna. Srila Prabhupada was talking to the bank managers. Srila Prabhupada was talking to lawyers, not about, Bhagavatam philosophy, although he would usually talk with them about that also. But he would talk about getting the work done because it was Krishna's work. So you go to the grocer and you buy your subjis or you buy some grains, and it may not be directly Krishna Katha. What's the price of rice? So if you make it that, no, I can only speak slokas from Bhagavatam, you're going to have a really hard time. Unless you come quickly to the Paramahansa level, you can join devotees like Jayadvaita or others who, the Python man, who just are aloof from all of these things. But for the rest of us, Krishna says, Mamanusmara yujyacha. He tells Arjuna, think of me and fight. The whole Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna wants to leave. Bhoksham, Bhaiksham, Api, Haloke, Hatvarta Kamam. It would be better for me to become a beggar than to fight this war. Krishna says, no, you fight. But Mamanusmara, you think of me and fight. So one has to mold one's life in such a way that one will think of Krishna throughout the 24 hours, Srila Prabhupada says. But that doesn't mean that it's only, all I can do is chant Hare Krishna and read Bhagavatam. Arjuna was fighting, but he was fighting to satisfy Krishna. Otherwise, for his own satisfaction, he didn't want to fight. Katam Bhishma Maham Sankye Dronam Madhusudana. How can I kill Drona, Bhishma? Kapriti Syaj Janardana. What happiness will there be from that? But Krishna said, no. Mamanusmara yudhitra. You think of me and fight. So Prabhupada gives the example, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gives the example, that a woman has a lover apart from her husband. So she's very busy in her housework, maybe more than the regular housewife, so that her husband won't find out. But she's always thinking of her lover. When will we meet? Is he thinking of me? So if that's lover consciousness, why not Krishna consciousness? he told Raghunath Goswami, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that you don't be a monkey vairagi, just always trying to leave home. You be just like a pound, shilling, and pence man, but inwardly think of Krishna. Okay. Is there another question, another topic? Other
Maharaj?
thought? Yes.
I was just remembering there's a devotee who works in the finance industry, and he's always sharing his attempts to share Krishna consciousness, and his wife will make some treats. He'll bring them to the office. He'll bring them to the dentist. And while he's at the dentist, he'll be listening to Kirtan. And when the hygienist says, "What are you listening to?" he explains it to them. And then they say, "Oh, that sounds very interesting." And then he gives them a book. Or if he buys blueberries from the farmer's market, he'll bring back some treat for the farmer and say, "Oh, this is what we do." And they say, "Oh, this is really interesting. You know what he just basically shares his life. And he's a very busy person. He's in a very responsible position, but he just always takes these little opportunities. And, under ordinary circumstances, it sounds like bragging, but it's so inspiring to hear,
Yashoda Dulal does that.
Yes, Prabhu. Yes, Maharaj, that's who it is. Yes.
Always preaching.
Yeah.
Looking
But
for the opportunity. How can I distribute a book? How can I share some Krishna conscious thought? So it's not that we have to shut off, and it's also not that we can't do our work. But we do the work and think of Krishna, and also look for the opportunities, as Yashoda Dulal Prabhu does, to give people Krishna consciousness. And there's so many. Even in ordinary affairs, we have another godbrother. Whenever he goes by a toll booth, goes through a toll booth, he asks the toll keeper, my job today is to get everyone to say Hare Krishna. Can you say Hare Krishna? Could you help me out? Could you say Hare Krishna? And usually people will say Hare Krishna. And if they're really obstinate, they they're not going to do it. Then he drives away happy, because he knows that as he's traveling on, that person is thinking, they didn't get me to say Hare Krishna. So somehow or other. Yes.
Can you please, Maharaj, clarify how to social etiquette?
This is COVID-20. The effect of COVID-20 is that everyone speaks softly. Right? Or the effect is that my hearing's not so good, which is also true. The COVID-19 mask can come down, and that cures COVID-20. Yes.
The etiquette while behaving with devotees in the presence of deities, how should we be? How do we have to pay obeisances while Kirtan is going on?
Do we have to pay obeisances while Kirtan is going on?
To senior devotees who came to take a lecture?
To senior devotees, the statement in the Nectar of Devotion is that one should not offer respects to others before the deity. We see, it drives me nuts actually in Bombay, where other places, we're in front of Ras Biharji or other deities, and people see me come and they offer obeisances, and they even turn their feet toward the deities so that they can offer obeisances. So that's not right. That's not right. Anyway, Nectar of Devotion, it said one should not offer respect to others before the deities. Of course, we did offer respect to Srila Prabhupada, and from that one might conclude that one should offer respect to the spiritual master, even before the deity. And in fact, it's said that if you're doing puja, then you can even stop the puja to greet a devotee. Madbhakta puja pyadika. Krishna values his devotees even more than he values himself. But I take that statement seriously from Nectar of Devotion, that in general, the idea is that in the temple is the Lord's place. And in the presence of the Lord, all attention should be on him and not on others. It's mentioned in Brihad Bhagavatamrita that when Nard Muni went to Indraloka, he found that he was told earlier that Indra is the greatest devotee, greatest recipient of Krishna's mercy. So he wanted to go to Indraloka to meet the Lord Indra. When he got there, he found, to his good fortune, that Lord Indra was present with Lord Vamandev, because Vamandev is Indranuj, is the younger brother of Lord Indra. So so Nard Muni didn't offer special respect, or didn't say anything to Lord Indra, because he was in the presence of Vamandev. In the presence of the personality of Godhead, he didn't think it appropriate to, start glorifying Indra or speaking to Indra. So perhaps he might have, bowed his head slightly or something like that, but he didn't. He waited till after Lord Vamandev left. Then when Lord Vamandev left, then he began glorifying Lord Indra, you're the greatest recipient of Krishna's mercy, and so on and so on. But not till Lord Vamandev left the assembly. So, yes.
The subsequent question I had was, is it okay to say Dhanvat Pranam without actually doing it?
Is it okay to say Dandavat Pranams without actually doing it? Well, I don't have a Shastric reference for you, but we see that commonly in the Vaishnav world, this is done. Someone will say, Dandavat Pranam. So offering respect. But it's not actually a substitute for Dandavat Pranams, that if the spiritual master is there, then we don't just say Dandavat Pranams. Even Prabhupada, somebody would be like offering, Prabhupada would say, what is this chopping? So in the presence of the spiritual master, one should offer actual literal Dandavat Pranams, or semi-literal, because he's not actually a stick, but like a stick, Dandavat Pranams. So literally should bow down and so on, like a stick. Not just say Dandavat Pranams, Guru Maharaj. But otherwise, among Vaishnavas, it's sometimes done that we say Pranams, Dandavat Pranams, and so on. Yes.
I think part of his question also, which I was still wondering, was if someone's giving class and then the curtain's open, the deity curtain's open, then should everyone in the audience then immediately?
If someone's giving class and the deity curtain's open, do we immediately stop and everyone offers obeisances? I'm trying to remember if there's a reference on that, but my understanding is that we're worshiping Krishna in the form of Bhagavatam. If Bhagavad Gita is going on, then we're worshiping Krishna. There's no difference between Krishna on the altar and Krishna in the form of Srimad Bhagavatam. Actually, the tradition is when giving Bhagavatam class, they'll offer flowers to the Bhagavatam, they'll offer chandan to the Bhagavatam, offer some puja to the Bhagavatam, because the Bhagavatam is non-different from Krishna. Every word is identical with Krishna. So therefore, and again, I'm not speaking from a Shastric reference. If Hari Parshad Prabhu were here, I'm sure he could do justice to the topic. But my understanding is that one, we acknowledge the closing of the curtain and so on, but we go on hearing. We go on hearing. Even it's the tradition that if you're taking prasadam, when Vaishnav comes in, then you don't have to, normally we would, but one is honoring prasadam. It's not just my sense gratification. I'm taking lunch, so I'm too busy to, but one is honoring prasadam. He's not required to get up and offer obeisances because he's worshiping Krishna. So these considerations come into play. But one should not neglect the Vaishnava. Not that because I'm honoring prasadam, I don't recognize that a Vaishnava is there, or I don't care that a Vaishnava is there. So again, one has to apply these things with discretion or thoughtfully, keeping the principle in mind that we're meant to honor Krishna and we're meant to honor the Vaishnavas. Finally, one can put everything aside to honor the Vaishnavas. Mad Bhakta Puja Pyadika.
Thank you, Maharaj. Small clarification in your response. You talked about the spiritual master exclusively.
I think you can, if you're willing to take the risk, you can put the mask aside. Yes.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, so my only clarification I need is, you talk about the spiritual master exclusively. Being in a temple setting, it's often recommended whenever you see a sannyasi.
Yeah, that's so the spiritual master, we know we offer obeisances because we offered obeisances to Prabhupada. So then we offer obeisances to the spiritual master. Then the sannyasi is like the spiritual master. So how far do we take it? I can't say anything, but if it's me, don't interrupt anything. But it said one shouldn't, it doesn't qualify in nectar devotion. It just says one shouldn't offer respect to others, right? So sannyasis they're others. But at least let me say, if you're going to do it, don't turn your back on the deity. Don't be a fool and neglect the deity. That now the sannyasis come through the back door, so I'll turn my feet to the personality of Godhead to honor the sannyasi. That's just unconscious or lacking in consciousness. That Krishna is there. That's the point of the rules and regulations, that Krishna is there. I have to remember that this deity is not a statue. Krishna is actually there. So I have to act accordingly. If I offer respect to the sannyasi, I'll do it with the consciousness that he's also representing Krishna, but not that Krishna suddenly disappeared and doesn't matter anymore. And so I can just turn my back on Krishna. Not like that. Not like that. Okay. Well, something in the chapter.
There is something in the chat box about worshiping Prabhupada's Murti.
Let me. Prabhupada's garland. Okay. Tell you what, I'll swap with you. Thank you very much. Since the next question is about Srila Prabhupada, maybe Venkatesh asks, could you please help us understand worship of Srila Prabhupada Murti in our temples and how it is not a lifeless idol worship? Yes, before this Prabhupada Murti basically came into our temples after Prabhupada's departure. Otherwise, before that, I think the only Murti was at Krishna Balaram temple, where there was the Murti of Srila Prabhupada and his Guru Maharaj, along with Gaur Nitai. Otherwise, that as we now have murtis of Srila Prabhupada in every temple, we didn't have that. But there, the asana would be there, and Srila Prabhupada might come and sit on it, and there'd be a picture. That was since the very earliest days. And one time, Jadharani Dasi wrote a letter to Srila Prabhupada and asked him, are you there in your picture? And Srila Prabhupada said, if by seeing the picture you think of me, then I am there. Seeing the picture, we're thinking of Srila Prabhupada, then Prabhupada's there. So in that way, we have to, yes, we can think in that way. I think Gandhiji gave the example, not that he's one of our acharyas, but it seems to be a pretty good example, that suppose you had a picture of your father and someone were to like stamp on it, step on it, and or you'd be outraged. But it's just, some pigment on a piece of paper. But you feel that no, that's my father's picture. You can't do that. So in that way, there's a feeling, and my father is present, or Krishna is present, or the spiritual master is present by our consciousness. By our consciousness. Otherwise, the deity worship is idol worship. If we don't have Krishna consciousness, it just becomes, like we sometimes see professional worship, and they wait for someone to come, and then they'll offer an arati and hold their hand out and get some money, and then go back to sleep. So for them, the deity is just a statue, practically, because they don't have love. Because they're not following the principles by which to develop or sustain love for Krishna. So he becomes just a device for filling their bellies or maintaining their family members. But when there's devotion, then Krishna's there. Krishna's already everywhere. Maya tatam idam sarvam jagadavyaktu. He's everywhere already. But when there's love, then you can see him. So the spiritual master is always with us. But when there's love, when there's devotion, when there's remembrance of him, then you feel, yes, my spiritual master is here. Okay. And now 8:05 is also here. So we can, okay. Yes. So we can end here at 8:05. Should we have a little kirtan? We have this luxury these days sometimes that we're in temples and we can have a little kirtan. It doesn't depend on Zoom. Someone wants to lead kirtan? Yes. Okay. And we bid goodbye to our Zoom devotee friends, and thank you all very much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you,
And we look
Maharaj.
forward- Thank you, Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you. Hare Krishna.
And we look forward to
Thank you,
seeing you
Maharaj.
tomorrow from New Jersey. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Apurva in person. Right.
Had to turn the camera on.
Dandavat pranam, so to speak.
Oh, yeah. Shy.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare
Yeah.
Krishna.
That's Kishori Radhachandra, Lalita Chandra's wife, who just spoke.
Okay.
He met her in Columbus.
Oh, okay.
Jai.
Jai, Hare Krishna.
So is that kirtan happening? Okay, Hare Krishna.
For being the same.
Krishna Krishna Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Swastate Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Shivasati Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Shivasati Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare